Have you ever been in a situation where your blood started to boil, and before you knew it, you were consumed by that burning anger? You couldn't help it. It took over your mind and your body and left you regretting every word and action after the storm passed. What if I told you that you don't have to live with that constant fire? What if you could free yourself from anger, that toxic force that eats away at your peace? Imagine a life where calmness rules, where frustration doesn't hold the reins, and where clarity replaces chaos. Sounds impossible? Well, stick with me. Welcome to the Stoic path, where we learn that anger is a choice we can choose. Instead of being the puppet of your emotions, you can become the master of your responses. The best part? By mastering this art, you free yourself not only from frustration but from a life of emotional chaos. You unlock a level of emotional freedom that most people only dream of. Today, we're diving into 12 powerful Stoic lessons, mindfulness techniques, and actionable strategies that will teach you how to never be angry again. By the end of this journey, you'll have the tools to break free from the chains of anger and step into the power of peace and tranquility. Ready to let go of that constant storm inside? Now, here's your mission. Hit that like button for this video. Why? Because when you take action, YouTube sees this content as valuable and spreads it to others who need it just as much as you do. And here's the truth. When you help others, the universe helps you in return. But let's get real for a second. If you can't even take a simple action like clicking the like button, maybe this video isn't for you. Why? Because without action, there's no transformation. No action, no change. So step up. Hit like, subscribe, and share this video. Help others, and watch how things start shifting in your favor. Are you ready, my friend? Let's unlock the power that's been waiting for you all along. Now let's dive in. Number 1. Recognize that anger is a choice. Let's get real for a second. Do you think anger just shows up uninvited, like an obnoxious guest at your party? It doesn't. Anger is not some random emotion that takes control of your mind. Nope. It's a reaction, a decision. And the worst part, you chose it. Yes, you did. When you feel your blood start to boil, take a moment, breathe, and realize that the whole drama happening inside your head, that's all on you. You invited anger in like an ungrateful guest, and now you're mad at sitting at your dinner table, chewing loudly, and complaining about everything. Seneca, the ancient philosopher with a knack for brutally honest wisdom, nails it with this: we suffer more in imagination than in reality. So, that firestorm you're experiencing right now? It's your imagination running wild. Sure, someone might have said something irritating or acted like a jerk, but your anger is all about how you interpret it. The reality is, you control your emotions, not them. So why let their behavior dictate your mood? You're better than that. Now here's the game-changing tip. Pause before reacting in anger. Take a breath and ask yourself, am I choosing to be angry, or is this a response I can control? Spoiler alert, you can always control it. When you recognize that anger is a choice, you begin to unlock the true power of emotional freedom. And guess what? That power doesn't come from letting anger control you. It comes from taking the wheel and steering your response. Number 2. Shift your focus to what you can control. Let's face it, in today's world, it's way too easy to get caught up in other people's nonsense. A rude comment at work, a slow driver cutting you off, or an overly critical friend, it's enough to set your mood on fire. But here's the kicker. None of it is within your control. You cannot control what other people do, but you can control how you respond to them. And trust me, that's where the magic happens. Epictetus, the Stoic master, wasn't just spitting words when he said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." He was telling you something profound. Your freedom comes from what you choose to focus on. The sooner you accept that you can't control other people's actions, the sooner you'll realize that your peace of mind isn't dependent on anyone else. And that, my friend, is true emotional freedom. Let's put this into everyday context. Picture this. You're in a meeting, trying to present your ideas, and someone interrupts you, dismisses what you're saying, or even cracks a condescending joke. Your first reaction might be a mix of frustration, embarrassment, or anger. You feel your face getting hot, your fists clenching, and your mind racing. But guess what? You have a choice at that moment. You could escalate the situation, snap back, or stew in resentment. Or you could take a step back and realize that you control your next move. The key is to remind yourself, what they said or did is beyond my control. But how do I respond? That's on me. By shifting your focus away from their behavior and toward your reaction, you prevent them from having any power over your peace of mind. You can choose to stay calm, keep your composure, and steer the conversation back to something constructive, without letting their nonsense pull you into a negative spiral. Or consider the example of a friend who constantly cancels plans at the last minute. You've been disappointed 100 times, and you're frustrated by their lack of respect for your time. The next time they cancel, instead of letting that old anger resurface, ask yourself, what can I control here? I can't control their behavior, but I can control how I respond. Maybe it's time to stop waiting for them and focus on your own time. Perhaps explore new hobbies, set plans with others who respect your time, or take that moment to recharge. The key here is remembering, you control your choices, and you always have the power to change your response. Actionable tip: the next time someone frustrates you, take a moment to pause. Acknowledge that their behavior isn't something you can change. But your response? That's in your hands. Focus on what's within your control, your mindset, your emotions, and the actions you take moving forward. By doing this, you reclaim your power and, more importantly, your peace. Number 3. Understand the source of your anger. Have you ever felt your anger flare up in an instant, only to later feel regret or confusion about where it came from? You know that burning feeling in your chest, but when you step back, it seems a little misplaced. Anger often isn't the emotion it appears to be. More often than not, it's a cover-up for something deeper, maybe fear, insecurity, frustration, or even sadness. The key to overcoming anger is to understand what's truly behind it, and in doing so, you'll discover that your anger is often just a shield, hiding your true feelings. Marcus Aurelius, in his Infinite Wisdom, said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And what does this mean in the context of anger? It's a reminder that when you lash out in anger, you're letting the emotion control you, instead of taking a step back and addressing what lies beneath the surface. When you act on pure anger, you become just like the person who might have wronged you. You lose your peace. But when you pause, reflect, and understand your emotions, you regain control, and that's where true strength lies. Let's say, for example, someone cuts you off in traffic. You can feel the anger rising, your hands gripping the wheel, your heart racing. But instead of letting that anger take over, ask yourself, what's going on here? Perhaps it's not the reckless driver that's triggering you. Maybe you've had a stressful day at work. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed or unheard in other areas of your life. Your anger is a reaction to something deeper, not the situation itself. When you pause and reflect, you can see that the road rage isn't really about the car in front of you. It's about your own need for calm and control in a world that often feels chaotic. Or, think about those times when someone says something rude to you, and your anger flares up almost immediately. But what if that anger is rooted in past experiences of being criticized or not being understood? Perhaps their comment hit a nerve, making you feel small or rejected. Instead of reacting impulsively, try to gently explore what part of you feels wounded. Maybe it's a past insecurity or fear of judgment that's being triggered. When you uncover that root cause, the anger loses its power, and you can respond from a place of clarity and calm rather than defensiveness. Actionable tip: the next time you feel anger rising, take a deep breath and create a moment of pause. Gently ask yourself, what's really behind this anger? Is it fear, past hurt, frustration, or something else entirely? By understanding the true source of your emotions, you can respond with compassion and insight, rather than reacting from a place of pain. This awareness not only helps you diffuse anger, but also leads to personal growth and greater emotional intelligence. Number 4. Practice compassion and empathy. Think about the last time someone you care about snapped at you. Maybe it was your partner, a close friend, or even a family member. You probably felt that immediate rush of frustration and maybe even anger. It's easy to react from that place, but what if there's more to it than what meets the eye? Often, anger stems from misunderstandings, and we forget that the people we love are just as human as we are, carrying their burdens. Epictetus wisely said, "When someone does wrong, they do it to themselves." This means that when others lash out at us, it's more about what they're going through than it is about us. Their anger or frustration might stem from something entirely unrelated to us. What if instead of reacting in kind, we paused, stepped back, and tried to see the world through their eyes? Imagine your partner coming home after a long, stressful day at work. They're irritable, making sharp comments, and you feel your emotions start to boil. Instead of reacting in anger, take a deep breath. Could they be overwhelmed by work, dealing with anxiety, or facing a personal challenge? By stepping back and practicing empathy, you remove the need for conflict. Rather than escalating things, you might offer comfort, understanding, or simply space for them to unwind. The same goes for family. Let's say a parent snaps at you during a routine conversation. Instead of taking it personally, consider their circumstances. Maybe they're under a lot of stress or struggling with something they haven't shared. By approaching the situation with understanding rather than defensiveness, you show that you value them and their struggles, and you also protect your peace. Actionable tip: the next time you feel your anger rising, ask yourself, what might they be experiencing right now that I don't know about? Approach the situation with an open heart and mind, ready to listen rather than react. Responding with compassion won't just save the moment, it will strengthen your connection and prevent unnecessary hurt. Number 5. Accept that people will disappoint you. Let's face it, people are going to disappoint you. No matter how many times you remind yourself that everyone is doing their best, there will still be those moments when they let you down. A friend cancels plans last minute, a coworker doesn't pull their weight on a team project, or a family member breaks a promise yet again. It's almost as if the universe decided, hey, let's throw a little frustration their way today. And, well, it's a guarantee that at some point, the people you trust will disappoint you. But here's the thing. Why are we so surprised when people don't live up to our expectations? Why is it that we hold these unrealistic standards in our heads, expecting everyone to meet them? It's like setting up a perfect dinner party and getting angry that the guests didn't bring the exact right wine, while failing to notice that they brought pizza instead, which might just be better than the wine you planned for. Life's full of surprises like that. Marcus Aurelius had a fantastic way of dealing with this. What we do now echoes in eternity. What does that mean? It's simple. Stop worrying about other people's imperfections. They'll disappoint you. That's just the nature of being human. But your response to that disappointment is what matters. When you let go of rigid expectations and accept that people are not perfect, just like you're not perfect, you free yourself from unnecessary frustration and anger. Their failure to meet your expectations is not your failure. You can't control their actions, but you can control how you choose to react. Here's where it gets tricky. Letting go of expectations doesn't mean lowering your standards. It means realizing that everyone, including yourself, is a work in progress. You're not going to get a perfect performance from anyone, be it in relationships, work, or life. So when someone disappoints you, instead of losing your cool, step back and remind yourself, they're doing the best they can, and honestly, that's all any of us can do. Now, let's talk about practical advice. Imagine a colleague drops the ball on a project. You're stressed, ready to snap, but instead, try this. Pause for a second, breathe, and think about how many times you've made mistakes, big ones, without someone else throwing a fit. The next time your friend forgets your birthday, remember they might have their stuff going on. They're not out to hurt you. They're just human too. Accept their imperfection with grace, and in turn, you'll feel a lot less burdened by their mistakes. Actionable tip. The next time you find yourself feeling let down or angry at someone, remind yourself that life is full of disappointments. Don't expect perfection. Instead, focus on what you can control, your response. Adjust your mindset to accept imperfections, and remember, just as you would like grace in your failures, so too should you extend that grace to others. This small shift in perspective can keep your peace intact and prevent unnecessary emotional turmoil. Number 6. Practice forgiveness to free yourself. Forgiveness. A word that sounds so simple, yet feels like a Herculean task when someone's wronged you. How many times have you replayed that one incident in your mind? That moment when someone betrayed you, hurt you, or took you for granted. And every time you think about it, your blood boils, your chest tightens, and your mind goes straight into revenge mode. The idea of forgiving them feels like handing over the keys to your emotional freedom. And you're not ready for that, right? But let's stop right there. Here's the cold, hard truth. Holding on to anger only traps you in the past. You can replay the scenario 1,000 times, but nothing is going to change. That person is still out there doing whatever they do. And you're stuck, stewing in your emotional prison. The irony? The only person you're hurting by not forgiving is you. The other person? They've likely moved on with their life, while you're over here carrying that weight like it's your lifelong baggage. Marcus Aurelius nailed it when he said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice." This is the Stoic mic drop. Instead of getting caught up in the cycle of hurt, resentment, or even revenge, true power lies in rising above it. When you forgive, you don't justify their actions. You don't condone their behavior. You simply free yourself from the chains of anger that keep you bound to their wrongdoing. You take back your peace, your strength, your ability to live without the shadow of resentment hanging over you. Take a moment to think about this. Imagine that one person who hurt you. They've wronged you. But here's the thing. By holding on to that anger, you are the one still giving them power over your life. What does that do for you? Absolutely nothing. You're essentially putting yourself in a mental chokehold. Let me tell you, the most freeing thing you can do is forgive them. Not for their sake, but for yours. Forgiveness is like cutting the emotional cord that ties you to the past. It's about reclaiming your peace and telling that moment, that person, that event, you no longer control me. Here's an example to bring this home. Let's say a friend lets you down, repeatedly cancels plans, or says things that cut you deeply. Every time you think about it, your anger spikes. Now imagine forgiving them, not because they deserve it, but because you do. When you forgive, you reclaim control over your emotional world. You no longer allow their actions to dictate your mood or your thoughts. Forgiveness doesn't excuse their behavior. It simply says, I'm done with being tied to your actions. I choose my peace. Actionable tip. The next time you feel anger building, pause and reflect. Tell yourself, forgiveness isn't for them, it's for me. Release the grip of the past, and let go of the emotional baggage. Practice saying to yourself, I am free to move on. I choose peace. The more you forgive, the lighter you'll feel, and the more power you reclaim over your own life. Try it, and feel the weight drop away. Number 7. Embrace love and kindness as strength. When you think of strength, what comes to mind? Physical power? Mental toughness? Maybe it's the image of someone who can bulldoze their way through any obstacle. But here's the secret. True strength doesn't always look like that. Sometimes, true strength is found in love and kindness. Think about it. When someone frustrates you, what's your first instinct? To snap back, to let your frustration take over, right? But here's where you can turn the tables. What if instead of matching their negativity with your own, you respond with kindness? Marcus Aurelius understood this when he said, "Love is the only reality, and it is not a mere sentiment. It is the ultimate truth at the heart of the universe." In other words, love isn't just some fluffy feeling. It's a force. It's a power so immense that when you choose it over anger or frustration, you disarm the negativity around you. You don't just stop it from affecting you, you transform the entire situation. And in doing so, you become unshakable. Let's consider a real-life example. You're at work, and a colleague undermines your idea during a meeting. You can feel the irritation bubbling up inside you. Your first instinct might be to snap back, but pause for a moment. Instead of letting that anger control you, try to approach it with kindness. Instead of going on the defensive, respond with empathy, perhaps acknowledging their point, but calmly explaining why you see things differently. By doing this, you don't just protect your peace, you diffuse the tension in the room. When you respond with love and understanding, it's like throwing a calm stone into a raging river. The ripples spread, and the anger subsided. This doesn't just apply to work. Think about those moments when a loved one or friend frustrates you. It's so easy to retaliate, to lash out. But what if you showed compassion instead? Imagine a scenario where a friend has let you down. Maybe they canceled plans or missed an important event. It stings, doesn't it? But instead of confronting them with frustration, try responding with understanding. "I know things are tough for you right now, and I appreciate it when you do make time for us." This response is powerful. It doesn't just show them kindness. It shows you have the strength to rise above frustration and speak from a place of love, not anger. Actionable tip. The next time someone frustrates or annoys you, take a deep breath. Don't let their negativity dictate your response. Instead, counter it with love and kindness. When you do, not only do you disarm the situation, but you also strengthen yourself. Kindness is a power that's often underestimated, but when you choose it, you unlock an incredible strength within. So, pause, breathe, and respond with empathy, and watch how your world begins to change. Number 8. See anger as a waste of energy. Let's be honest for a moment. How much energy have you wasted on anger? That heated moment when someone cuts you off in traffic, or says something that rubs you the wrong way. You feel the heat building up, your mind races, and before you know it, you've spent precious moments in a whirlwind of frustration. But here's the catch-all: that energy is being drained for no reason. You're burning yourself out over something you can't change when you could be using that energy to fuel something much more important: your personal growth and your goals. Marcus Aurelius wasn't just philosophizing when he said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." His point? Stop wasting time and energy on things that don't serve you. When you let anger take over, you are essentially diverting your focus from what truly matters: your well-being, your relationships, and your aspirations. Instead of letting that emotion drain you, why not channel it into something more meaningful? Think about it in terms of relationships, especially love. Have you ever found yourself angry at a partner for something minor, like forgetting an important date or not hearing you out during a conversation? In those moments, your focus shifts from building a stronger connection to letting your anger fester? What if, instead of holding on to that resentment, you redirected the energy? You could use it to listen more attentively, to approach the conversation with empathy, or even to plan a surprise gesture to show how much you care. Anger, in this case, does nothing to enhance the bond, it only weakens it. Consider a time when a friend or loved one disappointed you, leaving you feeling frustrated. Instead of dwelling on your anger and letting it cloud your perspective, why not take the energy and invest it in personal growth? Use it to do something productive, like working on a hobby, exercising, or setting new goals. When you stop letting anger consume you, you make room for more of what truly contributes to your happiness. Actionable tip: the next time you feel anger rising, pause and ask yourself, how can I use this energy more constructively? Instead of letting the frustration linger, redirect that emotional charge into something positive. Whether it's focusing on your personal growth, advancing your goals, or simply showing more kindness to those around you, the key is to move forward without wasting your precious energy. By doing this, you not only free yourself from the weight of anger, but you also take a step closer to becoming the person you want to be. Number 9. Recognize that anger often comes from a lack of control. Have you ever been in a situation where everything seemed to be spiraling out of your grasp? Someone cuts you off in traffic, a colleague takes credit for your work, or a family member says something hurtful, and suddenly, your emotions flare up like wildfire. That anger you feel? It's not just about the situation. It's about the underlying feeling of powerlessness. We've all been there, frustrated, angry, maybe even a little helpless. But here's a powerful realization. Anger often comes from a lack of control. The moment we feel we can't change the outcome, that's when the anger starts to take root. Epictetus, one of the most profound Stoic philosophers, wisely said, "Control what you can and accept what you cannot." This simple yet profound statement holds the key to transforming your relationship with anger. When you're caught in a moment of frustration, whether it's in a heated conversation or a challenging situation, ask yourself, what part of this am I trying to control that's beyond my reach? The truth is, we can't control other people's actions, their opinions, or the circumstances that unfold. But what we can control is our actions. And once you realize this, anger becomes much easier to manage. Let's take a moment to reflect. Imagine you're dealing with a colleague who continually undermines you in meetings. They interrupt you, disregard your ideas, and seem to take all the credit for the work you put in. It's frustrating, right? Your immediate reaction might be to snap at them, to fight back with anger. But stop for a second. Is the root of your anger coming from the feeling of being powerless in the situation? You can't control their behavior, but you can control your response. Instead of reacting in anger, take a deep breath and reframe the situation. Ask yourself, what is in my power right now? Maybe it's a calm conversation with your colleague or redirecting your energy into creating even more impactful work. By recognizing where you have control, you take your power back. Or consider a situation with a loved one. Perhaps you're feeling frustrated because someone you care about isn't meeting your expectations, and that anger starts bubbling up. Again, the anger often stems from the feeling that you can't control their actions or feelings. But you can control your approach. Instead of reacting with frustration, step back and ask, what can I do in this moment? Sometimes, that means simply stepping away to collect your thoughts or responding with calmness and understanding. The more you focus on your own choices, the less you let anger take over. Actionable tip: the next time you feel anger rising, pause and assess the situation. Ask yourself, what am I trying to control here? Focus on what's within your power, your reaction, your mindset. This small shift can lead to a massive change in how you handle frustration. Remember, when you regain control over your responses, you no longer allow anger to dominate you. You choose peace instead. Number 10. Cultivate mindfulness to prevent emotional reactivity. Imagine you're in a stressful meeting, and a colleague says something that instantly gets under your skin. You can feel the tension rising in your chest, your mind racing with the urge to respond in anger. But before you react, you notice something. A moment of clarity. A split second where you can feel your emotions swelling up. This is the power of mindfulness. The ability to notice the buildup of anger before it consumes you. Mindfulness isn't just about meditating in silence or finding inner peace during quiet moments. It's about being present and aware of your thoughts and emotions as they arise. It's about noticing that spark of anger before it turns into a wildfire. Mindfulness is one of the most powerful tools you can use to prevent emotional reactivity and regain control over your feelings. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, put it perfectly when he said, "If you wish to be rich, do not add to your money, but subtract from your desire." In this context, think of your emotional responses as desires. The more we desire to react emotionally, the more we feed the fire. But by practicing mindfulness, we can subtract that emotional reactivity, leaving us with a calm, clear mind. It's not about adding more tools to control anger. It's about subtracting the triggers that led us there in the first place. Let's apply this to a real-life scenario. Imagine you're dealing with a frustrating situation at home. Maybe your partner didn't follow through on a promise, or your child is testing your patience. Instead of immediately reacting, you take a deep breath and ask yourself, what's happening right now? What am I feeling and why? You give yourself a moment to step out of the emotional storm, to simply notice your feelings without being consumed by them. By acknowledging the anger without judgment, you prevent yourself from acting on it impulsively. Mindfulness is all about awareness. In another example, consider being in a social setting where you feel excluded or misunderstood. Your first reaction might be anger, but by practicing mindfulness, you can observe those feelings without letting them take control. Rather than spiraling into frustration, you choose to observe your emotions with compassion, allowing them to exist without allowing them to drive your behavior. Actionable tip: start each day with a few minutes of mindfulness practice, whether it's through breathing exercises, a short meditation, or simply focusing on your senses in the present moment. Then, throughout the day, take brief pauses to check in with yourself. Are you reacting emotionally to a situation? Or are you choosing your response with awareness and intention? By practicing mindfulness, you create the space to respond thoughtfully and peacefully, rather than react impulsively. Number 11. Focus on what's important. The classic tale of getting worked up over things that won't even matter by next Tuesday. You know the drill. Your coffee spills, someone cuts you off in traffic, or you receive a text that gets under your skin. Suddenly, boom, your whole day is hijacked by this tiny blip of annoyance, as if this one small inconvenience is the end of the world. But guess what? It's not. It's probably already forgotten by the time you finish reading this sentence. Here's where Stoicism gets real. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor himself, got it right when he said, "What we do now echoes in eternity." Anger over small things? That's a waste of precious time. Why? Because in the grand scheme of things, that spilled coffee, that rude comment, or that last-minute change of plans is utterly irrelevant. What truly matters is how you choose to respond, and what you allow your mind to dwell on. Let's be clear here, your time and energy are limited, and getting caught up in petty frustrations is the easiest way to derail your focus. It's like getting stuck in a traffic jam, when there's a whole world of adventure waiting for you just beyond the horizon. Yet, here you are, fixated on a 10-minute delay. Think about it. How many times have you let a minor irritation from your day spiral out of control? You spill your drink, your phone dies, someone cuts in line, and suddenly, everything seems like it's falling apart. But why? Because you've let these small things invade your mental space and steal your focus. You've given them far more attention than they deserve. These annoyances are fleeting, but your focus, your energy, should be spent on what's truly important. Now, let's put this into perspective. Imagine you're at work, and your coworker makes a snide remark. It stings, doesn't it? You want to snap back, to defend yourself. But hold on, will this matter in a week? A month? A year? Probably not. And yet, you're ready to throw away your peace over something so inconsequential. It's like squabbling over crumbs when you could be feasting at the table of bigger, more meaningful goals. Actionable tip. The next time you find yourself boiling over something small, take a moment to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week? A month? A year? Shift your focus back to what truly matters, whether that's your health, your relationships, your career goals, or the things that bring you true joy. Stop giving your precious energy to things that don't deserve it. Instead, focus on the big picture and let the small annoyances fade into the background. Number 12. Find strength in detachment. Let's talk about one of the most underrated superpowers out there, detachment. And no, I'm not talking about the kind of detachment where you turn into a cold, robotic, emotionally unavailable person who avoids conflict at all costs. No, that's not detachment. It's emotional withdrawal. I'm talking about the kind of detachment that's more like being a solid wall of calm while the storm of other people's emotions rages around you. You know, where you can stand tall and unshaken, no matter how much chaos unfolds. Sounds like a superpower, right? Here's the truth. Detachment is not indifference. It's the ability to separate your inner peace from the emotional mess that others bring to the table. When people are yelling, complaining, or acting out, you remain unaffected, like a stone in the middle of a flood. Why? Because you understand that their emotional turmoil is theirs to manage, not yours. You choose to stay rooted in your peace, while they're left spinning in their emotional whirlwinds. Epictetus nailed it when he said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Think about that for a second. Freedom isn't about forcing the world to behave the way you want it. It's about letting go of the desire to control things you can't change. That angry coworker? That person who cut you off in traffic? The world doesn't revolve around their tantrums. The only thing you can control is your reaction to it. Now let's make this real. Picture yourself at a family dinner, and Aunt Carol is going on and on about politics, ruffling feathers and raising tempers. Instead of getting sucked into her drama, you decide to practice detachment. You observe the situation as if you're watching a TV show, knowing that you don't need to take the bait. You smile, nod, and refuse to let her words affect your state of mind. It's not that you don't care, it's that your peace is more important than getting dragged into the storm. Actionable tip. The next time you feel the heat of stress or anger rising, take a mental step back. Remind yourself that what others say or do is their responsibility, not yours. Choose to remain calm and grounded. Breathe deeply, take control of your response, and let their chaos fall away like water off a duck's back. The more you practice this, the more you'll see that detachment isn't about being indifferent. It's about being strong enough to remain unaffected by the noise around you. Conclusion. Anger is a powerful force, but it doesn't have to be the driving force in your life. By embracing Stoic wisdom, practicing mindfulness, and choosing compassion over frustration, you hold the power to break free from its grip. Imagine a life where your responses are deliberate, your peace unshakable, and your emotional reactions within your control. That's the life of true freedom, and it's yours to claim. Now let me ask you this. Have you ever found yourself caught in a wave of anger that took over your entire day? Or maybe you figured out how to step back and find your center amidst the storm. I want to hear your thoughts and experiences. Share them in the comments below. Your story might be just the insight someone else needs to change their life. And hey, before you go, Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video. The more we engage, the more we help others find the peace and wisdom that comes from within. Remember, transformation starts with action, and it's up to you to make that first step. Let's keep growing, stronger and wiser together.